Ukrainian officials say another round of intensive Russian aerial bombardment has hit the capital, Kyiv. This is the 9th attack on the capital since the beginning of May. The city's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, said there'd been explosions in 2 districts. He said a fire had been caused by falling debris, but there were no reports of casualties. The head of Kyiv's military administration said a missile attack had been launched from Russian strategic bombers over the Caspian Sea. In the southwest city of Odessa, 1 person was killed by a Russian strike on an industrial facility. There were also strikes reported in central Ukraine.
At the moment of explosion, I was home. I heard 2 explosions. I can't tell you the exact time, because I was asleep. Then, in about 20 to 30 minutes, I got a call about a fire in my garage because of the debris. I came here, saw the situation, rocket debris, damaged car, damaged garage. This is the situation in short.
There was a very powerful explosion. Then I saw the smoke. I found out that the debris fell on the garages. My one is nearby. I can see the rocket debris now.
Well, for more on the war in Ukraine, and in particular these latest missile strikes, let's speak to the Ukrainian politician Oleksiy Goncharenko. He's an MP for the city of Odessa. The southwest port city was targeted in this latest strike, and Mr. Goncharenko joins me now live from Odessa. Good to see you, Mr. Goncharenko. Just tell us what you know about this latest Russian attack on Ukraine.
Yeah, unfortunately, during the last probably 2 weeks, there were a number of Russian missile attacks against our country. Against civilian infrastructure. First of all, that's continuation of Russian campaign of terror against Ukraine and against the many cities: Kyiv, Odessa, Mykolaiv, Kherson, Khmelnytsky, and other cities. So that is the reality, and they continue to commit these war crimes.
And, I mean, this is the 9th attack this month. How do you explain the frequency of these attacks? Are they trying to undermine the spirit of the people, testing the air defense around Kyiv and perhaps trying to destroy it?
Yeah, definitely one of the aims is air defense systems. We saw these attacks. They were very much looking for U.S. systems Patriots, especially in Kyiv, but they failed to hit it. But during these attacks, 6 Russian missiles Kinjal, which is in translation means dagger, which considered to be the most modern and the most efficient Russian missiles, they were saying it's like a doomsday weapon or something like this, which is impossible to intercept. But they were all intercepted by Patriots, and that's very interesting. That shows that Russian weaponry is very weak against the Western one.
And, how are people in Ukraine dealing with the daily stress of these sort of regular air raids and the fear? Are they breaking or cementing the spirit of the Ukrainian people? Is there increasing pressure to negotiate?
We are ready to negotiate, but about what? We are not ready to negotiate about giving up our territory. The spirit of our people is strong. We survived the winter, which was definitely much more difficult than today during the warm time. So that is not the case that Russia by this will destroy our moral. Definitely people are exhausted. Nobody wants to have war. But we clearly understand that before Ukrainian integrity, territorial integrity would be restored, any so-called peace will mean just a ceasefire. Because before international law and international order would be restored, there can't be any real long-standing peace.
Meanwhile, Mr. Goncharenko, we've heard so much about a possible Ukrainian counter-offensive. We don't know where and when it'll begin. I mean, when will Ukraine hit back?
When and where, that knows only our chief commander, General Zaluzhny, I think, some of his closest aides. I don't know when and where it will happen. And if I would know, I would never tell it on TV. But we also are waiting for this. There are some counteroffensive steps near Bakhmut and quite effective today. Ukraine recaptured near several square miles near Bakhmut again. And that is not the first time. But by the way, you are showing the videos from this counteroffensive of one of our brigades. So they are quite successful. They are like very successful. Russians have losses, but it's not a strategical, a big one. It's more about fighting near like a World War One style trench war with a short and small changes in the positions. Definitely, we waiting for a bigger counteroffensive, and but I can't tell you when and how it will happen.
Well, that's fair enough, but I mean, do you get the sense that the country and the people of Ukraine are eagerly awaiting that counter-offensive, that attempt to really push Russia back?
Exactly, that is the objective, just to liberate our land. We don't want any inch of Russian territory, but we just want to kick out this empire from our land. Because Russia is a real empire which makes colonial war. They consider Ukraine to be like their colony, which is not the fact, and that's why we are fighting for our independence and for our land. Also, they're committing genocide against Ukrainians on the occupied territories, so we can't leave our people under the threat of genocide.
Well, absolutely. But I understand that there are about 1 million people serving in the Ukrainian army right now. So basically every family has someone who is there on the battlefield. So in the event of the expected losses likely to be incurred in that counter-offensive, many families will be touched directly.
That is something very painful for us, and for us, not like Russia, we count every person, and every person is important. But that is the war. Unfortunately, we don't know the way how to defend our land without any casualties. But we try to minimize the number of casualties. That's why we're not hurrying with counteroffensive, because more weaponry we will receive, more modern weaponry we will receive, less victims we will have. And we clearly understand it. But in our case, it doesn't work like, if you don't want to have casualties, just don't make war. We're defending ourselves. It's like if Russia will stop war, the war will disappear. If Ukraine will stop fighting, Ukraine will disappear. So, that is the difference between us. So we can't let them kill our civilians, just butcher them like they did it on occupied territories. That's why for us, it's less casualties when we are fighting than if we would give up our lands. But we will never do this.
Well, stay safe, Mr. Goncharenko, and thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Oleksiy Goncharenko is an MP for the city of Odessa, and that's where he's talking to me from.